Hello, everyone. Today I want to tell you a story, but before I do, I would like to introduce you to my puppies, Penny and Benny. Here is Penny. Let's see, can you see her? There she is. And to my left over here is her brother, Benny. Oh, he's getting a good stretch in. And I want to show you his leg because that'll kind of be a part of this story, or not kind of, it will be a part of this story. So I want to begin the story from what I feel to be the beginning, which starts with how I ended up with Penny and Benny. So I also have a 2-year-old Maltese who is asleep as well at my feet. And since the pandemic began and we have been home with him, he's been loving it and enjoying every moment of it. But made me begin to think about the fact that eventually, I'm not sure when, but eventually life will, go back to normal, whatever that may be. However, you know, I'm not sure that he'll be okay with being alone. And let me not say that he won't be okay, because he could adjust to it, but I think that he would probably enjoy having someone that would be here with him even when we aren't. So it made me begin to look around for puppies, for a companion for him, and I came across Penny and Benny's litter, and I there was three in the litter. However, out of the three, I instantly fell in love with both Penny and Benny. But I was only looking for one puppy. So I had to make a decision between which one it was that I wanted to take home with me. And I ended up choosing Penny. However, before I could even get her settled in good at home, she, not she, me, I decided that maybe it wouldn't be the worst thing for me to also get Benny too. Even though I wasn't looking for two puppies, I just love both of them. Like, she's just unique in the way that she looks and such a very sweet girl. And I fell in love with her, and I fell in love with Benny because from the very first moment that I seen Benny came to me giving me all the puppy love and kisses in the world and following me around like he had always known me. And just the whole way that he interacted with me just made me fall in love with him from the very beginning. So I did not regret getting Penny. I just wish that even though I wasn't looking for two dogs, that I had gone home with two. So I thought on it. The next morning, I went back to look and see if Benny was still available. He was not. He had already been rehomed. So I went on loving Penny and Maddie, and Penny was and still is just the greatest with potty training her. Like, from day one, she just I don't know, she just had it. Training her to do different things, different tricks, sit, lay, things like that just have gone extremely well. I couldn't ask for a better puppy. So I'm enjoying the two that I have, and about a month passes and I come across a post that a young lady made about her purchasing a puppy from the same breeder that I had purchased Penny from, and her puppy being about the same age that Penny was at the time, but that her puppy, however, was very vicious and defiant, and that it just was not working out between them. So I reached out to her and asked her if she was willing to rehome him, or just discussing things with her and see where she was with it. I don't even know what made me reach out. because when I reached out, I did not know that this was the puppy. There were no pictures of him um, in the post. It was all that was said was that it came from the same breeder as mine, and it was around the same age as my puppy. So we began to talk, and she sends a picture of him, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I think that's him. Oh my goodness. So I tell her about it, and and we're discussing it, and she tells me his birthday, and I had a picture of him from when he was a puppy, from when I had met him, and I sent it to her, and I asked her, "Is this him?" And she goes, "Yes, that's him," and I tell her about it, and wow, like that means that he's Penny's brother. So she wanted to meet Penny, and she at the time was saying that she was willing to sell him. So I wanted to meet him and see about taking him home with me this time. So I made plans with her to meet her. We met at a dog park. Me and Penny arrived first, and while we were waiting, we had a chance to walk around the park and explore. So we were sitting by the time they began to arrive, and so I was able to see them, walking up, and I noticed that Benny was limping, and that he seemed to be hurt. Um, I began to walk towards them and introduce myself to her because this was the first time I was meeting her in person. And asked her if it was okay for me to pick him up. She said that it was. I picked him up. From that moment on, he would wince and cry if I even act like I was going to sit him down, and he just seemed to be in a lot of pain. So I started looking at the leg, which he was very good about letting me do. He just I was very gentle with him, but even still, the fact that he allowed me to touch it was amazed me. But he did let me touch it, and I was able to see that the leg was swollen. And we had already talked about the fact that even though she said that she was willing to sell him, she was not willing to part with him that day. So I tried to encourage her to take him to the vet, and she said that she just was not financially able to take him to the vet to even get his puppy shots, and that she definitely couldn't afford to be able to take him to have his legs seen. So I stayed in contact with her for about a span of a month before she came to a point of being willing to let me take him home. And immediately the next morning, because the day that I took him home, it was pretty late when we made it home. The next morning, the first thing we did is got up and went to the vet. And although I met him with, the week that he would have gotten injured from the research that I've done, because of the leg being swollen when I seen him, uh, that meant he had been walking around on what I would find out to be, which I'll get to in a moment, for a month. And I knew that he was hurt, as I said, but I just did not imagine that he was as hurt as what I would find out once we got to the vet's office. So we go to the vet, and I get him caught up. Well, not caught up, we're still working on it. I get him his first puppy shots that he needed to have done. And I explained to the vet what's going on, and that he had been limping and things like that. And he begins to look at it, and tell me that either the hip is broken or the knee, but he really couldn't tell because um, Benny would wince every now and then, but because he had walked around on this injury for a month, he had become pretty used to it, unfortunately. So we really couldn't tell what was going on, and both thought it best for him to have an x-ray done to know for sure what was going on. So the x-ray comes back, and the doctor comes back in, and he goes, I have, terrible news. He says the leg is broken in three places. It's broken in his hip, his knee, and in his femur. And he goes, it's pretty bad. Um, and he asks me what happened to the puppy, and I tell him that I had just purchase the puppy, which he knows me from coming in with the other dogs, so he knew that to be true. So he says that in his professional opinion that someone must have stepped on the dog. Now I won't dwell on this part for long because I don't know what the story is, and unfortunately may never know what the real story is to how he got hurt. However, in the end, when I got him and we were at the vet's office having this conversation, him and Penny were maybe like 3 days uh, they were 3 days shy of turning 4 months. And the vet tells me what my options are with him, and he starts with the first being that he can have a surgery for that will be $5,000 to $6,000 to repair his hip, because the hip is the main thing that he's concerned about not healing properly. That the other breaks are more likely to heal and be fine, but that the hip is, really damaged, and that it is a hard place because of it being a place of motion to just heal on its own improperly. So he tells me that he can have the surgery, and I tell him, well, unfortunately, I did not come prepared for this news. I really just never in my wildest dreams imagined that it would be this bad. So, I asked him, are there any other options? He says, well, your next option is you can have him amputated. Now, they were a few days shy of turning 4 months, so they weren't even 4 months yet. I refused to cut my puppies, any puppies, but my puppies' leg off at 3 months old. That was not an option for me. It wasn't. So I asked him, are there any other options? And he tells me that the third option is one that he cannot guarantee, but if I want to, we can give it a try. And the third option was having him wrapped for the bone to be kind of, mainly the hip, to be pressed into where it's supposed to be and held there long enough so that the body can begin to heal itself. And so I go with this option, which was, even though it was not $5,000 to $6,000, let me tell you, it was not the cheapest option either. So we proceeded with that, and I take him home. He's sent home with pain medicine because, to begin with, the breaks are painful. But in addition to that, they had to put him to sleep to wrap his leg because that's painful too. So he came home crying about it. I think it caused him more pain to be in the wrap than it did to walk around with his leg in the air like he had been doing before I took him to the vet. So it was very painful to him. I tried to keep him as comfortable as I could, and but because it was so I won't say it was so unbearable to him, but because it was so uncomfortable to him, even with the cone that you see he has on and me constantly watching him except for when I was asleep, he was still getting to it, or even some of the times it wasn't even that he was getting to it, the leg just wasn't staying. We were going to the vet every other day, like literally, and it was um to the point where the vet's like, okay, this was a money saving option, but as many times as we have had to redo this, at this point it's starting to be pretty costly too. And I said I agree. So he started telling me about another surgery that would be about 1,500 for him to have done, where the hip would just be all together removed and the muscles would be what holds the leg at that point. And I would just have to make sure that he doesn't ever become obese, which I try to keep them healthy, and I don't recall ever owning a pet that was obese. So I don't think it would be the biggest problem. But anyways, to get to where we are now. So I had him rewrap 3 times. The third time, the vet kind of seemed like he just wanted to proceed with the surgery that he had. Now giving me an option of having the $1,500 surgery. But I kind of just we had started the wrapping process, and I kind of wanted to just see that out and see where that goes. And if that doesn't work, okay, then we'll have to figure things out and move forward. But we started this process, and I would like to see it through. So that's what I chose to do. The third time that he was wrapped, he stayed pretty well. They put stitches in it for it to stay, but his leg eventually slipped out, even though the bandage never actually moved. And when the leg slipped out, that time I noticed that he had a really deep gash in the back of his leg. And then I also noticed that up at his hip he had a big gash and what looked like was becoming a infection. And I was, to be honest with you guys, I was so upset that night that I felt like I was making it worse. Like, I was really, taking him to the vet every other day because I wanted him to be okay so bad. And I felt like at this point, I'm paying to make him worse. Like, I felt so bad, so bad that I couldn't even sleep that night. Like, until the vet's office opened for me to go discuss with them what was going on. Like, why was this happening? Things like that. I could not sleep. And he seemed to be in a lot of pain from once again the things that I was having done to him to try to help him just didn't seem like they were helping. They seemed like they were hurting. But when we made it to the vet the next morning, and actually I was so upset that I looked. I was really upset. But when we made it to the vet the next morning, and I began to talk to him, he told me that the cuts came from the wraps rubbing on him. I'm not sure how true it was or anything, but what was worthwhile to know at that point was because the wrap was off, and now he needed to be treated for these scars. He had him get down to see how he was walking, and I had him for about a week. Actually, I had him for a week and 4 days at that point. And as I said, I took him to the vet the next morning, so he had been wrapped for a week and 3 days at that point. And he was now bearing weight on the leg, and so the vet goes, well, I think that he started healing and he don't need to be wrapped anymore, but you do need to keep him caged, and which I've kind of just done what he's doing now and put him in the playpen, because I can't find it in my heart to cage him in the kennel either. After all that he's gone through, I just don't see it. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong for that, but I just don't see me caging him. So I've done what I can do to make sure that he's resting like he is now and things like that. But I haven't, to be honest, completely did things exactly how they told me to do, but he has been resting. But anyways, he's bearing weight on it, and he is definitely better than where he started. But we won't know for another 2 weeks whether it's worked and whether he's healed correctly. And even though he's bearing weight on it, the one thing that I'm noticing is that he sits off of it, like he won't sit on it. And so that kind of concerns me. That kind of, I don't know if it's just that it's still painful to sit on or what it is, but it kind of concerns me, and I won't know if it's healed properly. If it hasn't, then he will still need a surgery to be done. So that brings me to why I am making this extremely long video at this point. Because I want to be prepared if that's the way that we have to proceed. Even if he doesn't have surgery, just taking him back to the vet and having x-rays done all the time, and the different things that he needs done to heal. regardless of where our journey takes us, has become very costly, to be honest. And I myself have spent over $2,000 at this point, and so I am reaching out. I have, like I said at the beginning of the video, been told to share my story. Many people tell me, if I start a GoFund or things like that, that they would be willing to help. So I'm doing that. I want to be prepared for wherever our journey takes us, because the one thing that I'm sure of is that he's going to be okay, and he is going to run around on four paws and not three, and enjoy Madison and his sister Penny, and have an awesome puppy life. So I would appreciate it if family, friends, and hopefully new friends could help by donating to his cause, our cause, because we're in this together. If you can, I just appreciate you listening to the story, and we will keep you updated regardless of how things go. It's been 2 weeks now, 2 weeks and 3 days that I've had him, and it's been a long journey, and just that seems like a short time, but I promise you it has felt it's felt like a long process already, and we still have some time to go. So we will keep you updated on it. Penny is totally famous and has a Instagram page. Her Instagram isn't very popular, but everywhere that we go, especially in the neighborhood, everyone loves Penny. And so she has an Instagram that I started before I ended up getting our buddy Benny, and you can follow our story there, and I will update everyone with new pictures. I'll try to post new pictures every day. Things definitely get hectic, especially with things that pop up with Benny that I don't expect, like having to run him back to the vet about the sores that he had from the wraps and things like that. But in general, I would love to keep everyone updated, and I thank you for listening to the video. And as I said before, we would love it if you're able to support, even if it's just supporting and being there, and seeing how his journey goes, and how things him and Penny spend Penny and Maddie, because even though Maddie's not a puppy anymore, he's definitely living his best dog life. How they're living out their puppy days. And we hope to talk to you in the future. Have a good day. Bye now.